what do you think is the relationship currently between black people and the cops?
It's not good. I mean, it's not good. We've always had a mistrust for police officers. Yeah. And seeing recent events happening around the country, it's really not good. At one point, it seemed like it was getting better or somewhat to some point, but then events happened and now we're back to the beginning.
So you're saying like all what we were building up to has been completely, it's over. It's kind of like we're starting over from
absolutely
from the very beginning. Absolutely. So how about you guys who are not law enforcement, of course? How do y'all view it?
I don't think we ever start over, and I think I've had this conversation with Daryl, and I've probably said this to you guys also. Is I think policing runs parallel with racism, and it's been a part of our makeup with this country for centuries. Like even if you go back to slavery, there was always policemen that was actually chasing slaves, runaway slaves, to even Jim Crow, to civil rights. So that's always run parallel to slavery, to racism, and we never atoned for our sins for that. And because we haven't atoned for our sins for racism is why we still have so many issues and mistrust of black folks with regards to policemen. And we just have not dealt with that issue head on. And I think until we deal with that issue, we're still going to continue to have that mistrust in policemen.
But my question is, how would you deal with that issue, though?
I mean, there have been countries who have atoned for their
sins, absolutely.
Their sins. I mean, in the way you do it is take it head on. Like Germany,
with the Holocaust.
Germany took head on their issues with the Holocaust.
They don't acknowledge the Holocaust.
They do.
They do acknowledge the Holocaust.
It's taught in schools in terms of what happened. We can't even get our schools to even talk about
Black history,
or even have a accurate depiction of what happened with slavery.
Or we're arguing over Confederate statues and Confederate flags when that was a premise on white supremacy. Like we can't even agree that this is white supremacy and they need to come down.
Yeah, and it's embedded in our society. So I think the way we start to work on that is to, as a country, not just black folks, acknowledge the fact that we have a issue or a history of racism, systemic racism in our country, and we need to move as a country to move in the direction of fixing that. And right now, our country is divided and going in every direction they want to go, depending on where they fall on the spectrum. So until we can even get to the point where we can even agree that there's racism in our country, we're never going to get to a point where we're actually going to be able to move forward or black folks have trust in the policemen.
So do you think that's more of people being on different sides of the spectrum because they don't want to have open, honest conversations and really have hard conversations about what is needed to be done?
I think at this point I used to believe that, and I'm sorry, but I really believe people know what's wrong and that they're intentionally choosing not to address the issue. That's where I'm at with that, because you can't have a situation with a 17-year-old boy with an AK-40, what is AK-15?
AK-15.
It was an assault rifle. AR-15.
AR-15. But to your point.
Was it assault?
Yes,
it was like a military grade.
Yeah, but walking the streets during protests and no one does anything, but then we shoot a black man in the back 7 times under the suspicion of having a knife. And those are the disconnects that we're having with our country. And this is what black people are constantly asking themselves, why are we treated one way when we feel like others are treated differently? And it's because of that history that we have in our nation when it comes to racism.